A wedding day, a moment meant to symbolize love and unity, took a dark and unimaginable turn, transforming joy into a chilling tragedy. Beneath the surface of what seemed a perfect union lay secrets so harrowing they would send shockwaves through the lives of everyone involved. What happens when the person you vow to spend your life with harbors a truth that could destroy everything? How does a celebration of love descend into a tale of betrayal and bloodshed? This is the shocking story of Emma Caldwell, a 28-year-old teacher whose life was marked by warmth, intelligence, and an unshakable bond with her loved ones. Born and raised in Boulder, Colorado, Emma was known for her passion for shaping young minds and her dedication to her family. Her cousin, Ethan Carter, shared an especially close relationship with her, so much so that he was chosen as her best man. Emma's relationship with Daniel Caldwell, a 32-year-old restaurateur, began in 2009 at a food and wine expo. His charisma and refined taste made him seem like a dream partner. Over their shared love for fine cuisine and weekend hikes through Colorado's scenic trails, they built what appeared to be an unbreakable bond. Daniel proposed to Emma during a snowy evening in December 2011 at a cozy mountain lodge, an event that felt like a fairy tale. Emma's joy knew no bounds as she meticulously planned their wedding, crafting each detail to perfection, from elegant centerpieces to the delicate lace of her custom gown. But behind his polished exterior lurked a double life. For years, he had concealed his true identity, engaging in secret relationships with men he met online. One of those men, as fate would have it, was Ethan, Emma's cousin and her best man. The day of the wedding in late June 2012 was everything Emma had envisioned. She stood radiant in her gown, ready to embark on a new chapter. But Daniel's hidden life was beginning to unravel, and the pressure to maintain his facade was becoming unbearable. Just hours after their vows, the web of deception snapped. The morning after the ceremony, Sophia Torres, a housekeeper at Boulder's Alpine Lodge, found Emma's body in the bathroom of the honeymoon suite. Her dreams of a happy life with Daniel had been shattered in a horrifying act of violence. Emma's brutal murder revealed secrets no one could have imagined, leaving the world desperate for answers. At the Alpine Summit Resort, Sophia Torres, a housekeeper on her morning rounds, stumbled upon a sight that would haunt her forever. She ran out screaming, her voice echoing through the quiet hotel corridors, alerting the manager. Within minutes, the Boulder police were on the scene, securing the area and beginning their grim investigation into the tragic murder of Emma, just hours after her wedding. As officers combed through the honeymoon suite, it became clear this was no ordinary crime. Emma's belongings were untouched. Her engagement ring and wedding band remained on her hand. The weapon, a small revolver discarded in the corner, had been meticulously wiped clean of fingerprints. The scene spoke not of a robbery, but of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. Hotel security footage was swiftly gathered, and interviews with staff and guests commenced. Sophia's discovery marked the beginning of an intricate investigation that would unravel the darkest corners of Daniel Caldwell's life. Yet when officers sought Daniel for questioning, he was nowhere to be found. Hours later, they located him at the Mountain Cafe, slumped in a corner booth, trembling. Daniel's story was as shocking as it was implausible. According to him, the night had spiraled into chaos when a towering man named Mark burst into their suite. Daniel claimed Mark was Emma's drug dealer, enraged over an unpaid debt. He described how Mark tied him to a chair and forced him to witness Emma's brutal murder. His account painted Emma as a secret addict, her double life allegedly catching up to her in the most horrifying way. Detectives, however, quickly found cracks in Daniel's narrative. The room bore no signs of forced entry, and Daniel's wrists showed no marks to suggest he had been restrained. Toxicology reports confirmed Emma's body was free of drugs, and interviews with her family and colleagues painted a picture of a responsible, loving woman with no history of addiction. As Daniel's story unraveled, investigators began to focus on him as their prime suspect. Searching his digital footprint, they unearthed secrets that sent shockwaves through the community. Daniel had been maintaining affairs with multiple men, using gay hookup apps to arrange encounters at motels and highway rest stops. The truth about Daniel's double life was beginning to emerge. The brutal murder was no random act of violence, but a tragedy rooted in hidden lies and unresolved desires. The stage was now set for a deeper dive into the motives behind Emma's tragic demise. The remote hiking trails of Boulder provided Daniel Caldwell with the perfect cover to lead his double life. Away from the prying eyes of his wife, Emma, and their circle of friends and family, Daniel orchestrated secret meetings with his lovers, one of whom was shockingly close to home. Ethan Carter, Emma's cousin and the best man at their wedding. Their affair, which had spanned over a year, added a devastating layer to the already tragic events surrounding Emma's death. Daniel was meticulous in covering his tracks. He kept a second phone hidden in the trunk of his car, used only for communicating with his lovers. Before returning home, he would delete messages, clear his browsing history, and fabricate elaborate excuses about business dinners or unexpected restaurant emergencies. To everyone else, Daniel appeared to be a devoted husband and successful entrepreneur, sharing carefully curated photos of his life with Emma on social media to maintain his facade. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a treasure trove of evidence detailing Daniel's secret life. Text messages, emails, and explicit photographs painted a damning picture of his infidelity. Interviews with several men Daniel had been involved with revealed the extent of his deception. These encounters often took place under the cover of darkness, on secluded trails, or in rented cabins far from the city. Among Daniel's lovers, Ethan's involvement shocked everyone the most. A respected member of the Carter family, Ethan had always portrayed himself as a loyal and supportive cousin. But his relationship with Daniel was anything but platonic. Ethan's strict upbringing in a deeply conservative household forced him to hide his true identity, making his affair with Daniel all the more precarious. When questioned by police, Ethan initially denied everything, insisting that he was neither involved with Daniel nor gay. His adamant refusals, however, were no match for the evidence detectives had uncovered. Explicit images of Ethan and Daniel together left no room for doubt, and Ethan's carefully maintained composure began to crumble under the weight of the truth. Despite his denials, it became clear that Ethan was entangled in Daniel's web of lies. As police connected the dots, they began to suspect that the stress of maintaining these secrets and the fear of exposure might have played a critical role in Emma's murder. The unraveling of Daniel's double life not only shattered the Caldwell family, but also brought investigators one step closer to uncovering the truth behind Emma's tragic death. The revelation of Ethan Carter's affair with Daniel was more than a scandal. It was a pivotal shift in the investigation, casting suspicion on Ethan's role in Emma Caldwell's death. As detectives pieced together the events leading up to the tragedy, they uncovered a new layer of complexity, a discovery that would not only deepen the heartbreak, but also point to chilling motives. Just days before her murder, Emma had visited the Boulder Medical Center for a routine checkup. Dr. Charles Carter, her father, and a renowned physician, had been the one to process her tests, as he often took care of his daughter's medical needs. When the results arrived, they were devastating. Emma was pregnant, a discovery that should have brought joy to her family. But the tests revealed something far more sinister. Emma had contracted several sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV and herpes. Dr. Carter was heartbroken and horrified. How could his vibrant, loving daughter, who had always been cautious and health-conscious, end up in such a state? He couldn't fathom the betrayal she must have endured. This devastating news weighed heavily on him, but it would become a critical piece in the ongoing investigation. Detectives, now armed with this new information, began to reconstruct the potential timeline. Emma's pregnancy was a joyful secret she had not yet shared with Daniel, but the STDs raised questions about her health and her husband's fidelity. Investigators suspected that Daniel's reckless and hidden life had exposed Emma to these infections, putting her and their unborn child at risk. Daniel, whose affairs spanned years and involved numerous men, had gone to great lengths to conceal his actions. The secluded trails and remote cabins he used for his encounters had shielded him from discovery, but the consequences of his deception were now impossible to ignore. Police theorized that Emma's pregnancy may have represented a breaking point for Daniel. The prospect of fatherhood and the exposure of his double life could have made him feel cornered, leaving him desperate for a way out. Adding to the tension, Ethan Carter's involvement with Daniel complicated the dynamics further. When questioned, Ethan continued to deny the affair, even in the face of mounting evidence. But detectives couldn't ignore the possibility that Ethan, too, had a motive to silence Emma, fearing she might uncover their secret. As the investigation continued, Dr. Carter's devastation turned into determination. He provided investigators with Emma's medical records, detailing the timeline of her pregnancy and the test results that confirmed her STDs. For Dr. Carter, ensuring justice for his daughter became his sole focus, even as he grappled with the unbearable grief of losing her. The convergence of Emma's pregnancy, her health, and the discovery of Daniel's double life painted a chilling picture of betrayal and desperation. Investigators were now looking at a web of lies that connected Daniel, Ethan, and Emma, each thread bringing them closer to the truth behind her untimely death. Dr. Carter, a man known for his composure, couldn't contain his anger. He called Daniel to meet him at a secluded spot near their family cabin, under the guise of discussing Emma's future. When Daniel arrived, he was greeted by Charles's piercing glare. Without hesitation, Charles presented the results, demanding an explanation. "Do you think I wouldn't find out? You've endangered my daughter and my grandchild. How long have you been lying to her?" Charles's voice was sharp, cutting through the cold night air. Daniel, caught off guard, stammered, trying to deny the implications, but Charles wasn't backing down. "You will tell Emma the truth or I will," Charles warned, his voice trembling with both fury and heartbreak. "If you think you can keep hiding, you're wrong. This ends now." Daniel's polished demeanor cracked under the pressure. The life he had so carefully crafted was unraveling faster than he could control. Emma's pregnancy, the STDs, and now Charles's demands were closing in on him. He pleaded for more time, promising to fix everything. But Charles was resolute. This confrontation marked a turning point in the investigation. The detectives pieced together Daniel's behavior in the days following this meeting. Friends and colleagues described him as increasingly erratic, avoiding calls, skipping work, and withdrawing from those around him. Surveillance footage showed Daniel visiting an isolated hiking trail late at night, a location investigators later determined was a frequent meeting spot for his secret affairs. What troubled detectives most was Daniel's timeline. On the day before Emma's murder, he had abruptly canceled a dinner with her family, claiming a business emergency. Instead, he was seen meeting Ethan Carter, Emma's cousin and Daniel's secret lover, in a dimly lit parking lot near Boulder's outskirts. Their heated exchange, caught partially on a nearby security camera, raised even more questions. The mounting pressure on Daniel was evident. His double life, once hidden behind layers of deceit, was now exposed, with Emma's father ready to reveal everything. Investigators began to suspect that the confrontation with Charles and the looming threat of exposure were pivotal moments that pushed Daniel to an irreversible decision. Emma, pregnant and blissfully unaware of the danger, had become the final obstacle to Daniel's carefully constructed facade. In the early hours of a November morning, officers approached Daniel Caldwell's suburban home. The neighborhood was silent as law enforcement executed the arrest warrant. Inside, Daniel was startled awake and quickly handcuffed, his double life crumbling around him. The arrest marked a critical moment in the investigation into Emma Caldwell's murder. At a press conference, District Attorney Melissa Harper announced the charges. "This was no crime of passion," Harper stated. "This was calculated, a desperate attempt to conceal a double life." The trial began in February 2013 at the Boulder County Courthouse, drawing widespread attention. DA Harper and Assistant Thomas Grayson meticulously built their case, revealing Daniel's secret affairs, his confrontation with Dr. Charles Carter, and the chilling timeline leading to Emma's death. Central to the prosecution's case were Emma's medical records. They revealed her pregnancy and the sexually transmitted diseases she had contracted, likely through Daniel's reckless behavior. Dr. Carter's testimony described the confrontation just days before Emma's murder. "I had to confront him," Charles stated. "My daughter deserved the truth." The jury also saw surveillance footage of Daniel meeting Emma's cousin, Ethan Carter, in a secluded parking lot hours before her death. Coupled with explicit photos and text messages, this evidence painted Daniel as a man driven to desperation. Daniel's defense attorney, Michael Barrett, claimed Emma's death resulted from a robbery gone wrong, pointing to an unknown intruder. Yet, forensic evidence contradicted this theory. Investigators found no signs of forced entry, and all evidence pointed to Daniel. D.A. Harper's closing arguments were powerful. Emma was a loving teacher and daughter, betrayed by the person who vowed to protect her. Daniel Caldwell silenced her to keep his secrets. The jury deliberated for 5 hours before delivering a guilty verdict. The judge addressed Daniel during sentencing. "Your actions destroyed more than one life," he said. Daniel was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison, with no parole for 3 decades. As Daniel was led away, Emma's family sat in silent grief. Justice was served, but the pain of betrayal and loss lingered. Emma's memory now stands as a testament to uncovering the truth, no matter how deeply it's buried. The courtroom's silence was heavy as the judge delivered Daniel Caldwell's sentence. Emma Caldwell's parents, seated in the front row, held hands tightly, their faces etched with a mixture of sorrow and relief. Outside, reporters swarmed, eager to share the conclusion of a case that had captivated the nation. For Dr. Charles Carter, the verdict brought a measure of peace, though the void left by his daughter's absence was a wound that would never heal. Daniel's life in prison was a stark contrast to his once polished image. Struggling to adapt, he retreated into isolation, shunning interactions with most inmates. Over time, he formed an unexpected bond with a fellow prisoner serving time for fraud and drug charges. Their friendship blossomed into companionship, culminating in a quiet prison wedding. The union, controversial and unexpected, became a topic of fascination for those following Daniel's case. Some speculated that Daniel sought comfort and stability in a life now defined by confinement and regret. His new partner, though carrying a troubled past, offered him a semblance of connection in a world where isolation was the norm. Daniel's life behind bars, while far from the freedom he once enjoyed, became a reflection of his desperate need for redemption, even in the smallest ways. Meanwhile, Ethan Carter, once Daniel's secret lover and Emma's cousin, embarked on a path of transformation. After years of denial and inner conflict, Ethan publicly came out as gay. The decision, though fraught with personal and familial challenges, marked the beginning of a new chapter. Ethan later married a man he met while volunteering at a youth outreach program. Together, they built a family, welcoming 2 children through adoption. For Dr. Carter, the pain of losing Emma became a catalyst for change. He poured his grief into activism, speaking at community centers and organizing workshops to raise awareness about domestic violence and hidden abuse. His efforts turned Emma's tragedy into a beacon of hope for others, helping countless individuals recognize the signs of danger in their own relationships. The fates of Daniel, Ethan, and Dr. Carter became intertwined reminders of life's complexities in the wake of tragedy. Daniel's secrets unraveled in confinement. Ethan embraced love and authenticity, and Dr. Carter honored his daughter by advocating for change. Emma's story, though heartbreaking, underscored the devastating impact of deception and the resilience of those left behind.